This video will help you with section 6-1. Long ago, you learned about lines, something like y equals 3x. That would be a linear function, something like this. Then we learned about y equals x cubed. It's similar to y equals x squared with a parabola, but it looks more like this. But on y equals 3 to the x, this is what we call an exponential function. This will be the topic of 6-1 and some of the other sections here as we go into topic 6. What does it look like though? If we make a general sketch of it, we're going to see a lot of these that kind of makes a little soft L here, if you will. We want to just be able to describe with our section 6-1 what an exponential graph might look like and how the pieces of the equation affect the graph. Think back to all the transformations we've done with parabolas or square root graphs. We always talk about the parent function and how changing the equation can change the graph. So here if we look at y equals 2 to the x, we have a similar graph as y equals 3 to the x. I did point out some key points. If you wanted to plug in a 0 for x, put 0 in here for x, anything to the 0 power is 1. Or if you put in a 1 here, 2 to the first power is 2, so over 1 up 2. If you put a 2 in there, 2 to the second power is 4. That's where those dots come into play. You can always use Desmos to double check that, but we want to be able to graph those. So we want to talk about the properties of this function. The domain, remember that's the x values that work in this equation. This graph will ride along that x-axis all the way out, getting infinitesimally close to the x-axis. So we can plug any negative number we want and any positive number we want. Therefore, our domain is all real numbers. Our range is how high and how low it goes. Well, we can see this would shoot up forever. It does seem to bottom out there, though, at 0. So for our range, in interval notation, we'll say it's from 0 to infinity. But notice it doesn't include 0. So we have to use that parenthesis on the left. An intercept, an x or a y intercept. We would say here it's crossing the y-axis at 1, so let's put it in a coordinate form of 0, 1. It will not cross the x-axis, so we don't have any there. An asymptote is where the graph kind of levels out or brushes up against. So we see this graph as we travel way out to negative values, it will level out at a y value of 0. That's what we call our asymptote. Exponentials will really only have a horizontal asymptote. So we'll look for those. It'll say y equals that number. And finally, for end behavior, we can go in both directions. I tend to look at the positive direction. So as we move out to the right here and go in x values that go to infinity, our graph is just going to keep shooting up. So we would say y would also go to infinity. Now, we could look in the opposite direction. As x goes to negative infinity, our graph is leveling out at a y value of 0. So for each of these functions, you could try your example 1 part B and check the answer key. Your try it's in the same fashion. I did graph this try it. Notice how it asks for the domain. Generally, guys, for your exponentials, your domain is all real numbers. You can plug in any number you want. The range, how high and how low, this one, of course, is going up forever, but it does stop at 0 again. Our intercepts, where does it cross the x and y axis? See, it's not crossing the x-axis in this case, but it does have a y-intercept of 4. Interesting. Note that 4 there. Wonder why that 4 is there. That might be something to be looking at for a pattern. And finally, an asymptote, if we're looking for where it's leveling out at, it's leveling out at the 0 here, right at that line. And our end behavior, as x goes to infinity, this y goes to 0. But as x goes to negative infinity, the y value, when I go backwards, is shooting up to infinity. Now, for example 2, we're going to look at just a few more of those transformations, see what happens when we start putting negatives or different numbers in place. See how there's a negative out front here? Instead of being our 3 to the x graph like the warm-up was, our warm-up graph kind of looked like this. Here is our negative 3 to the x. This negative flips or reflects the function over the x-axis. So we would say that negative out front will give it a reflection over the x-axis. That's pretty important there. And again, we're always comparing it to our parent function 3 to the x. Now if we put this minus 4 out here, maybe you'll remember when we have a kind of a dangling number out there all by itself, that will shift it up and down vertically. So notice how instead of flattening out at 0, it flattens out here down at like -4. So our new asymptote there is at y equals -4. It does ask for the intercept. Notice how this one has an intercept. There's our x-intercept, and here's our y-intercept. So it did bring our intercept down to -3. Now that number doesn't seem to be present. -3 doesn't have any indication in our equation. But remember, our parent graph, if we were graphing y equals 3 to the x, it would cross at 0, 1. So it did go down 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. So those are some transformations. We see that the number out by itself is still a vertical shift in the up or down direction. A shift, not a ship there. The negative sign is a reflection, if I use a better math word here, over the x-axis. So keep those in mind, what that negative will do out front and what that number on the end will do. The triads give you a couple extra. Here you had an x plus 3. This one's kind of interesting if you look at the graph. The original parent graph would have gone 5 to the 0 would have been 1. So the parent graph, would have looked like this, generally. So notice when you put x plus 3, I highlighted it because it does move the graph to the right 1, 2, 3. So that is your horizontal shifter. A little bit interesting because it actually does shift in the direction it says it's supposed to. So the x plus 3 follows that pattern. So we know if it's up there in the exponent, it will shift it horizontally in that direction. I also wanted to note that if you're typing this in on Desmos, generally students can get the 5 to the x okay, but sometimes if you start typing plus 3 afterwards, it'll bring it down to this kind of plus 3. I oftentimes will have to go in and type my 5 to the x, and when I get my x up here, I have to backspace and insert x plus 3 before that. Just a little trick there. So on the try it part B, notice now we have the negative in the exponent. So we've seen a negative sign or a number come into play before the 5, up in the power, or after the exponent. But notice what this negative x does. Instead of looking like this, the graph reflected over the y-axis this time. So it reflects over the y-axis. Now, we only give you example 2 and try it 2 to notice these patterns, but if the exponent gets a negative, it reflects over the y-axis. If the exponent gets a plus or a minus, it will shift it horizontally to the left or the right in the direction that it looks like. As for a number on the outside after the power, that will vertically shift the whole entire function up or down that direction. And if there's a negative in front of your coefficient, that will reflect it over the x-axis. It's a good thing to remember those transformations and be able to recognize those on the graphs. It does ask in this habits of mind, what types of transformations affect the asymptote or the intercepts of the function? So when you do the try-its, you should probably answer the questions. I focused in on what happened to the graph, but an asymptote and an intercept, what did happen? Well, notice this intercept is no longer the same. Or this intercept's the same, and the asymptote's the same. They ask which one does affect both of them. It's only those shifts. So on try it part A, that horizontal shift moved the y-intercept. Or on example part B, this vertical shift moved everything down, so your asymptote and your intercepts both changed.